back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. Get a nice hot cup of Java there for you while you're listening to us. It is Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching this. And truly appreciate it from the pop culture cosmos, inside sports, fantasy football, and of course the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate you checking out all the stuff we do, whether it is Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports, Fantasy Football, Pop Culture Cosmos, of course, the things that I do on the Pop Culture Cosmos, like the PCC Multiverse, the State of Pro Wrestling, and more. You could be a part of that just by liking, subscribing on our YouTube channel, or following us on podcast outlets, or to those great radio stations around the world that play us each and every week. You can follow us there as well. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without a good friend indeed, and he is back with us. Melinda. Well, I know you're jumping in, my friend, but Melinda, your beloved, she had to take off some makeup of the stage kind because she was looking like she was getting herself ready for a part. That was something that I think we'll keep under wraps and let her go ahead and talk about it. But it is a good man indeed. It is her significant other, the husband and guy behind so many great things that they do as part of what they do as far as their shows, podcasts, cosplay, LARP, and more. It is, of course, Mr. Robbie Ross. And Robbie, great to have you here. Our expert on Warhammer. We're going to be talking a little Warhammer today. There's no better person to talk about Warhammer than you, my friend.
Oh, Gerald, it's always a pleasure to have you. Whenever I get a chance to talk to you and your audience, it is just so good. You have wonderful people that follow you, and you yourself bringing so many great questions to people's lips.
Well, I try, my friend. There's much to discuss. I know I've run a lot of special episodes lately, so we haven't touched as much on the pop culture news part of it, but there has been stuff trending as we get into September. We finished the Labor Day weekend, which is the annual sign of the end of the summer movie season, but the movie season isn't slowing down, my friend, because there is a major release this weekend that is expected to do pretty darn good. So we'll talk about that here in a sec, because I don't want to say his name 3 times, because if we do, he might appear. Also as well, PlayStation 5, which I know you have, has had its ups and downs recently. So we'll definitely catch you up to speed with the 3 games that have been making news recently there. Also, speaking of video games, there's a game that's coming out to a lot of platforms that is getting some really high reviews in the form of Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. And we'll talk to you about why you need to play this game. And that's coming up on a bit as well. And last but certainly not least, I want to go ahead and mention what's available now, what's trending now in streaming, and also as well what's upcoming, because there's some good stuff coming up this weekend as well. But first, my friend, I guess we got to say it. Beetlejuice. That's right.
One more time. Come on, let's go all the way if we're going to do it. Beetlejuice. Right. How long has it been? We're talking, what, 30 some odd years?
I think it came out in 88.
Yeah.
Yes. 1988 was the original. There was a long and developed, I guess a lot of people, depending on who you talk to, thought it would have been a very good idea if they did, but it was such a quirky idea that movie studios eventually passed on it. Was Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii, which was developed over the course of the 90s, but that fell through the cracks. I think it's something that they really wanted to do. I don't know if they'll actually ever get back to it, but I know Michael Keaton Douglas, who he now wants to refer himself to, because his real name is Michael Douglas, but SAG rules says you can't have a prominent name that's the same as somebody else's prominent name. So he had to change it to Michael Keaton, but now he wants to be known as Michael Keaton Douglas. So with that said, he recently talked about a third offering and said it probably wasn't in the cards. He might have to change his tune, my friend, because after 12 million in previews yesterday, it is tracking to a $100 million worldwide opening, which obviously would make the movie company very happy. But it's good to see, my friend, that it's also fairly well accepted by the critics. Not stellar reviews, just okay. It's pretty good reviews. But the fans, the audiences, this is something that people wanted back on the film, on back on the box office, back out in the movie theaters. It looks like they've got it, my friend. Let me know your thoughts on Beetlejuice's return to the theaters.
Well, first of all, let's look at the timing. We did already talk about how long ago this thing was released. You know what that's great for? The person that's coming back to revisit Beetlejuice is the appropriate age as us growing up with her
Mhm.
to finally see the new version of Beetlejuice. There has been times, I mean, like I think in the story, from what I've seen through the previews, is that they come back to the house. We're revisiting something, and Beetlejuice is the only answer that can get her through the problem yet again. Also, a lot of Mr. Douglas's great work that he's done since that amazing one of his hallmark places where he became truly famous and occultist when it comes to a ravenous fan group that just loves some of his characters, whether it be Batman or anything else. Like within his wheelhouse, he definitely owns it now more than he ever heard. And you got to remember, in the first Beetlejuice, we only got 22 minutes of him on screen. That's it. I mean, like the Beetlejuice left such an impact in all of us, even enough to make there was enough on the table to make a wonderful animated series, even after the fact, when they couldn't
Mhm.
make that Beetlejuice in Hawaii. There's just still meat on that bone, and to watch them come back and chew it to shreds and really embrace some fan service. I mean, what you can at least see through the previews, because I don't think either one of us has had an opportunity to see the pre-release film yet. What I see is a nod back to nostalgia. If you're going to redo something, you might as well have that original thing in mind when you redo it.
Well, nostalgia acts haven't fared. They're safe to the movie companies, but they haven't always been very productive. Nostalgia has been a hit and miss over the past, let's say, decade.
Sure.
Since I've been doing this since 2016, there's been a lot of nostalgia plays from the 80s and 90s that have come back to either television or the movies, and it hasn't always worked out, and video games as well, and it
Mm.
hasn't always worked out well. But for some reason, people are resonating with Beetlejuice. They're resonating with the nostalgia, and people who haven't even seen the film, they're checking it out just because of the fact I think that there was so much hype going into this film. It's really something that I think a lot of people have been interested in catching, and that's a good thing for Beetlejuice.
Do you think it has to do, Gerald, with that there just was more story? Like it wasn't defined, right? Like the ending of the original Beetlejuice, it's just her really being brought further and further into this ghost world. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That it truly is so like the ending is just it's offering more. Like I think that this uh reinterpretation of it, not really reinterpretation, a continuation of it, stems from some place that can be continued. You know, I mean, I think that there's a genuine story you can tell with the Beetlejuice mythology, if you will.
Mhm. I agree with you. I agree with you. And the fact that the cast itself does have a recent successful actress in Jenna Ortega, who,
Huge.
as you know, from the huge hit on Netflix Wednesday, has a crowd and an audience of her own that is following her onto the screen for this, and then great supporting cast. Once again, Winona Ryder, like you said, plays the buffer between Beetlejuice and Jenna Ortega this time around, as opposed to what she was playing in the original. So I like this kind of quirk. Now she's the mom. She was the daughter in
Sure.
Beetlejuice. Now she's the mom. You've got Willem Dafoe and Monica Bellucci. Monica Bellucci plays the ex-wife of Beetlejuice in the underworld, and of course, Willem Dafoe is a cop in the underworld as well, trying to investigate murders and who is doing them. And then you have Catherine O'Hara, who's playing her role once again. So familiar faces plus new faces added into the mix. I think it's a good blend. But before we stop talking about Beetlejuice, we got to talk about Tim Burton, who people just kind of sleep on. They kind of forget about his line of work. And I know that his career is now got more to the backside of his career than the front side or the middle part of his career, just because of his age and whatnot. But let's not forget what a brilliant filmmaker he can be, and an entertaining one, a quirky one, but still one that can produce things on screen that does resonate with an audience.
Well, you got to remember his history. He was a failed Disney animator because he was too on the nose and too spooky and too hidden valleyed for everybody, right? This is where this guy came, and that's why you look at all of his character creations. Like if you look at Edward Scissorhands, it's like the offshoot. It's the quirky, slightly dark, a little bit gothic feel to it. All of his pieces have always resonated with a little bit of charm of counterculture. And when you add someone like a new talent of Ortega, I mean, like, don't you think she was predestined to forever work with a director like this? It's as if he prayed and the angel came down. It's like, yes, that's what I've been looking for. This is the time. These are the moments. These are the pieces of an actor I'm looking at. If you look at all of his castings, they're all very, very archetypal when it comes to look and balance. Non-reactive also is another part of the things he looks for actors. Someone that can just hold a moment of awkwardness. And she just exemplifies that. You could see it all in Wednesday. It's like they were meant to mate. And this is a young talent coming with an old guard of all the tricks of movies and his own sensibility. Like he is the oddball, and he has enough courage to show us all of his strangeness, always on the film. He's a very, very sensitive man that just wants us to see his vision.
And I'll tell you what, right now, though, it is nostalgia paying off, something the movie studios like, because they already have the idea in place.
Yep.
Instead of worrying about creating something from scratch. Although,
Sure.
again, the old argument, should they be more reliant on new ideas or old ideas, comes into play. But right now, the old ideas of Beetlejuice is paying off, and it has come out to some great success. On the Monday show, hopefully we'll be able to update everyone on the success or not so success, but I have a feeling it's going to be very successful with Beetlejuice. But my friend, before we head to the break and get on with some other stuff, what are your last thoughts on Beetlejuice before we head to the break?
Mr. Douglas, thank you for coming back and putting on the suit, putting in the big teeth. Let's hope we get 20 additional minutes of you actually in the film. I think you're surrounded by the right people. And really what I think is this was truly a passion thing of love, right? Because they got destroyed by the writers, the writer's block. They were almost done filming. You can see how important this is. They refused to release it, even though they had most of it in the can. If you're going to spend that much money to come back with these people that we can all trust, because we know that not only do they care about the source material, but they are trying to give us a gift for all that love that we've shown them throughout the years. I think this is just without seeing it, I know I can't be right, but I'd bet my life against a dime that I'm going to smile and laugh out loud at least twice in the film.
There you go. And with that, it is Beetlejuice, and it's now playing in theaters again, getting off to a great start. $12 million in Thursday night previews. Still expected and still projected to go right around $100 million worldwide in its opening weekend for a September release. That's pretty darn good. And I think we will see a Beetlejuice, despite what Michael Keaton Douglas says. I still think we will.
Yeah.
I think this first, it depends. If it hits 400 million worldwide, I think it will. That's what I'm gonna call right now. But are you gonna say Beetlejuice? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's episode. PlayStation 5, which you are very familiar with, my friend. It is something that has been resonating with a lot of audiences. It's whether or not it will ever become as successful as the PlayStation 4, we'll see, but it is the PlayStation 5 right now. It had a kind of some weak points this year as far as releases are concerned, but in recent weeks, it has found some success and a major failure that we must discuss. We'll talk about the first success. Black Myth Wukong came out a couple weeks ago, and it's from a Chinese-based development studio. I know there was some controversy in regards to how they handled the PR for it, as far as they handled advanced releases for people who wanted to stream it, some things they couldn't say, some things they couldn't mention. Politically based, politically resonating, which I won't go into here, but it has still come out to a large audience, a lot of it in Asia, which I think for a lot of these PlayStation developers is now realizing as an untapped market, but they touted 10 million sold in its first 24 hours, which would be one of the biggest video game releases of all time. So with that, Black Myth Wukong, which is a Souls-like, don't call it a Souls-like game, but it is, when I see it, kind of like a Souls-like game. But it has resonated with audience. They're now developing a major expansion for it. So we'll see exactly what happens when they finally get that release before they ever touch on a sequel, because they're now talking a sequel with it. But your thoughts on Black Myth Wukong and its unexpected tremendous success? Yes, most of it is in Asia, but it's getting pretty strong reviews and pretty solid numbers here and in Europe as well.
Well, if you are going to have the controversy, which we're not going to talk about right this moment, that's fine. We're going to leave that controversy right where it is. But look where it's being embraced by the people that would have the controversy. The people that it doesn't exactly fit. There's some issues with it. So at what point are we making the controversy more important than it is? If it's not insulting the culture, which it could be insulting, and they're still embracing the game, perhaps we've misunderstood the depths of the controversy. That being said, don't call it a Souls clone. Could you call it an Elden Ring clone? Is it the beauty? Is it like at what point do we still?
Well, they're following the Elden Ring game plan, because
Right.
they're not going into a sequel. They are doing a major expansion, just like Elden Ring. So they, like Elden Ring, which also found unexpected huge success, are mirroring each other going forward.
Yeah, I think that those are really the two. Forget Souls, take Souls out of this one. My comparison's more to the. I do plan on playing this. I have not got my hands on it yet, but I see the comparison more apt there. And I think that there needs to be like a different bridge. Like Souls game, they're soul crushing. You know what I mean? Like that's just part of it. Where when you have a game like Elden Rings, and which I think is, as far as the reviews are looking, it looks like that's what it's going to be. I won't be able to have a true review until I get my hands on the game. But I think that there's just a little bit more care put into something that is more Elden Rings. There's not care as in like depth of play or whatever, just beauty and reward. You know what I mean? Like there is like where Elden Ring's like you versus you. Elden Ring is more like you go see the world, enjoy the scenarios, see the beauty that the devs have made. I think that there's going to be more of that compared to a Souls game. I like both versions of it, both styles of play, but there are definite comparisons between the two games.
I'll tell you what, though, Black Myth Wukong, you cannot argue with the success, and congratulations to the team that has created it. And truly,
where do you put the success on? Like, what do you think? What was the magic sauce with this? Like, why did so many people embrace this very quickly?
especially overseas, in China, I could tell that first of all, it's a product that came from their area. Very supportive, very national pride as far as when one of their I guess companies does something out there, they're very supportive of it. And in the video game space, a lot of Chinese development companies have only really touched on or had major success in mobile games, free to play games.
Sure.
In that realm, this is a more of a console PC game that it isn't meant to be a games as a service, or where there's a ton of extra stuff that you have to buy or microtransactions. Wasn't meant to be a free to play game. This is a full priced AAA budgeted game that they went out and they did, which is one of, I'm not going to say one of the first, but one of the real first successes for a Chinese developer to put it in a landscape that has found success in Asia, in Europe, and in the United States. But really in Asia, they've really come to really embrace it. PlayStation 5s have been selling like hotcakes since it's come out. But I know some of it is based off Chinese mythology,
Sure.
which I know again really touches and resonates with the audience, but they didn't do it in such a way where it's just forcing it on you. They're doing
Sure.
it in a way that's making it palpable and approachable to a wider audience.
Sure.
They've done a terrific job with that. Game Science is the company involved, and you know what? They deserve all the credit, and they've been able to go ahead and find this level of success, which another game that I'll be talking about here from Sony directly on this one has not found and will not ever find, most likely, in Concord, which came out ironically in the same week, I think almost on the same day.
Well, we've never seen anything like this happen in the gaming community. I mean,
No,
never
absolutely
once.
not.
I mean,
So,
like go ahead.
well, I was going to say Black Myth Wukong and Concord came out in the same week. Black Myth Wukong stole the headlines as being one of the greatest and highest selling video game releases of all time. But Concord, the hero shooter that's been in development by Firewalk Studios for about 8 years from most reports, $200 million reportedly spent on this project. Hero shooter in the vein of Overwatch and other there's plenty of hero shooters that are out there, but it came out with a price tag. It came out with a barrier of entry of $40, whether you bought it on digital, or if you were one of the few people who bought it at the time on physical. And I'll get to that, back to that in a second. So the reports came out because the player base raters were rating it about 600 to 700 at its peak concurrent as far as number of players, which for a game that's released, that is abysmal. That is absolutely record low numbers for a game that size. The game reportedly only sold about 25,000 units within the first 24 to 48 hours. We talked about $10 million, 10 million units being sold for one game and only 25,000 for the other. It got to the point where in 2 weeks, a history-making thing happened, Rob, in that Sony has announced that, or at least the developers has as well, that they shutting down. And as of today, we're recording this, they have shut down the servers. And for a game of this size, that is unprecedented. Your thoughts, my friend, on the Concord disaster?
Well, two things have happened that are really fun for gamers. First of all, it just became one of the rarest things to get, possibly in your digital platform, to get a Oh, you have it?
I have a physical. So I'll go into
not open that
before. Oh, I'm not. Before I let you go on about it, I did sense this. I've been talking to Josh off camera about this. I mean, I felt like a stock speculator about what the news went on. And I said to Josh 2 days before it happened, I think we should buy these things. I'm at Walmart. I see 4 in stock. I think I should buy. He's like, just let it play out a little bit more. So the Monday happened. and where they announced it, and I immediately went out to Walmart and I got it. And I'm
Yep.
checking, evaluating. The prices on eBay are still in the hundreds. There's a couple crazy people that are trying to sell off their copies for like
Yep.
five to seven
100%
thousand
right.
dollars.
Yep.
We'll see
100% right.
what it meters out at. I mean, there was a lot of people buying the physical copies in that 24-hour period. I
Yeah.
actually saw it on my Walmart app. It said over 1,000 were sold within 24
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. They
So
had
we'll
their
see.
biggest spike.
Yes, their biggest spike then.
Their
But
biggest
we'll
spike at
see.
the end.
We'll see how well it does. I'm going to sit on it. I may
You
grade
should.
it. I know Josh is asking me to grade it. I don't know yet if I will. It depends on the value. Price charting for the North American version, it's not given a price as of yet, so they don't even know what value to give it yet. But it's interesting, my friend, as you continue to talk about Concord and the failure that it is.
Oh, it's, I mean, you got a piece of history right here. I mean,
Yeah.
like we're current, never before has so much money been legitimately thrown out. Like there.
Continue, my friend. Continue, my friend.
Oh, you
I
still
was
there?
just, yeah,
Oh,
just
sorry.
had to put away my Concord. Sorry.
No worries. The what we're looking at is no that has never happened. It has never. I mean, like they essentially deleted the game, and the reason they had to delete the game is because it requires other people to play. So, like, if this was a and I'm going to go touch back on one of your first things about the games that are succeeding. This could also be a conversation of PlayStation players demanding what made PlayStation 4, the previous things of PlayStation, so win the console wars. It was first player games that you could play by yourself. You didn't need to buy anything. You didn't need a season pass. You didn't need to have friends to play. It was completely and utterly self-contained. This is God of War prime PlayStation time, right? And then maybe customers are done. Like maybe customers are just done spending money on an Overwatch clone. Now, the other controversy comes into it. Was it woke? That's can't be, because Overwatch has to be one of the most successful games when it comes to first-person shooter or RTS shooters, if you will, or like going out and fighting with your friends in team shooters there's maybe ever done. And that is one of the most inclusive games you can imagine. That thing is a juggernaut when it comes to whatever your political system is. So we can just leave that argument right on the table. Did it happen? Did it not? Well, if it works for Overwatch and it's an Overwatch clone, why wasn't the market there to also support it? I think that maybe it has to do with the amount of time and gameplay it does to really release all these skins, like really release all this content. I think it will have a place because now it lives in infamy of a free-to-play game. And I think that they will make money on their skins. So it will
Well,
go
right now it's shut off. There's no way to
off.
access it right now.
Yeah,
They may bring it back, but I don't know. But it would have to come back, like you said, as a free-to-play game.
Yeah, that's the only way. And if you're sitting on the IP, you've already done all the, you've already. So what are you going to do? Reclone it with something else? Redo all the voice actors? Keep the same exact game? Just recast and reskin everything? Because you've worked with the engine, you've done the level creation. You know what I mean? Like if you don't go free to play, the only thing you can do is just ravage the corpse. You can pick up everything that is left. You can go through the pockets, find the loose change, and try to bring it into something else. I don't think that's the way that you do it, because it'd be too obvious. And the moment that they do, the moment that one resource is seen in another game, that game's going to tank too, because now it's going to be left with the mark of Cain, if you will. You know what I mean? It's like bad juju from the past, where if they just do it free to play and make their money on skins, it's already radical. It's already in the world of Overwatch, where Overwatch makes most of its money on skins, not in gameplay. I think it lives in that world. If you want to play it, if that ideology is something that excites you, this would be a built-in player use for it. The game itself, I mean, it just looks like everything else. There was nothing special about it other than the controversy, and I think that's why it failed.
Once again, it is Robbie Ross along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening to the PCC Multiverse. Want to touch on a couple last things when it comes to Concord. They did mention Sony and also the developer that if you did buy it, whether it's physical or digital copy, and you want a refund, they're ready to give it to you. So go ahead and wherever you purchase it from, it's going to give an automatic full refund. But in the case of the physical, like we talked about, it's now debatable, but we'll see if it does become a collector's item. Hey, it's a $40 investment. If it isn't worth anything, no worries.
You're completely right. It pisses me off. I didn't think about it yesterday. Honestly, I think you
had to get this thing by Monday. You had to get this thing by Monday night because I told Josh, my friend Josh Peterson, co-host of the Sunday show, told him you got to get this thing now, and he tried Amazon. Immediately, it had already sold out. eBay was already spiking high. You had to go rush out to Walmarts or Targets and buy this. And if you didn't do it by the end of Monday, it was not going to be there. I checked Monday night just to see if there are any other locations. And in Las Vegas here, they had already sold out. So,
even if you don't make money on it, it's going to be an oddity for you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a talking piece. It's a coffee table book for you in your game room.
Well, I had said to Josh beforehand, again, this was like Saturday. This is before the decision came down. I said, as I was looking at it in the Target, I called him and I said, man, could this become one of the most collectible games of this current generation? Not the previous generation. It's not going to ever be sculptor's cut as far as for N64 or the Nintendo World Championship games. Those are the or premium Super Mario Brothers 3 or all the others. But
what it's going to be is what it's going to be though is going to be the Leisure Suit Larry. Mm-hmm. It's going to be that odd, obscure that no one's ever played. That has this, you've never heard of this one? Well, let me talk about it. You know what I mean? It's a talking piece. Like, even if it doesn't make money, man, you're going to enjoy showing that to your friends when they come over because they've never seen it. Like, if I came over, I'd want to hold it in my hand and we could talk. Even if you don't make money on this, you and me can have a chuckle about this time in history and you got to have a piece of it. It's kind of like the Doom popcorn holder, right? Mm-hmm. Like so many people bought it. It's probably not going to be worth money. But whenever you see that piece at someone's house, you're going to be like, oh, I remember when that happened. I may have not gotten it. I may have never owned it, but I'm aware that it exists. And it becomes a wonderful thing to commiserate about the times.
I mean, I certainly hope it's not the, like with the Dune popcorn holder or the Deadpool popcorn holder or like this. I hope that the first 24 to 48 hours weren't the peak of its value, but we'll see what happens. That's what happens a lot with this stuff. It just it explodes and then it's over with. And then people realize, hey, it's not as valuable as you think, but we'll see. But it is a failure to PlayStation. Unfortunately, Firewalk Studios, the studio now is in question on whether or not it will survive, but we'll see. But the last thing I want to touch on with PlayStation 5 is a great success that's pending because it just got released today, and that's Astrobot. So if you've got that controller and you open up your PlayStation 5, the first thing you're going to see is that sample of that Astrobot sample, the Astrobot demo, Astrobot, whatever you want to call it, that came with it. And it's been such a huge success. People have liked it. It's a tech demo, whatever you want to call it, that they finally made a full-fledged platforming game. And the reviews on it have been incredible. It's right now sitting at a 94 on Metacritic and is being called one of the greatest platformers not named Mario ever made, my friend. Your thoughts as a PlayStation 5 owner on Astrobot?
Well, how do you make an indie game that came with the console? You know what I mean? That's like calling Tetris an indie game. Like it is to call something the best platformer since Mario. That is some words. That is, I mean, Shovel Knight doesn't even get to have, and Shovel Knight is some incredible, amazing mechanics. We can talk about great platformers, Metro Man. I mean, we're talking about a lineage, but to see a modern day lineage that's not called Cuphead is pretty incredible. great to see. I do love the retro style gaming. I think that platformers it's such simple gameplay, and that allows the small changes that you make to it, or the different mechanics that are in every game, the double jumps, the triple jumps, the changing of like Mega Man style, changing all of your guns to set up your platform. I mean, that's where platformers live. You know what I mean? We could see this in the original Mario. The first time we all got to hear that new music, the second that we got the flower for the first time, and that blew us away. That's some of the joy that platformers bring us. It's small reveals. It's not huge cinematic universes that we get to have 10,000 options for. And like the newest Diablo have 12 different pages and pretty much do a spreadsheet simulator, if you will. Platform games are direct rewards. It's a game that everyone kind of enjoys playing because you have such quick dopamine comebacks to you, right? Find this thing. This is easy. Follow the map, figure out the map, and then every once in a while, you're going to have a great little Easter egg. I think it's built for success, and I do plan on playing it.
It's an incredible success as far as critically. So let's hope it gets supported by the PlayStation community. I know that for years, people have been saying to Xbox and PlayStation, we need a platformer that resonates, that we can call our own. Mario comes out year after year, decade after decade, with platformer after platformer that reaches worldwide acclaim and success. And now PlayStation has the opportunity to promote something in a year when this was supposed to be a really bad PlayStation year. And with the Concord failure aside, with Black Myth Wukong and Astrobot, it could turn out to be a pretty decent year for PlayStation after all.
Well, maybe Concord was the sacrificial lamb. We got to pack all of our failures into one, send it out to slaughter, and then the rest will be fine. You know, I mean, especially as somebody that doesn't have both platforms, I don't own the Xbox as well as the PlayStation. I only have the PlayStation. Anytime my team can get a W, I'm thrilled. You know what I mean? That's just more money for the company. That allows them to take more risks. You know what I mean? Like if they have, like, Concord is great because that at least shows that the platform is willing to take a big risk on content. Now that one happens to be a flop, but you know, Cuphead should have been a flop too. It really should have. There's no reason why that should have worked other than it was brilliant. You know what I mean? It was a big risk. So when it comes to, I love all the people. Indeed, my background is my favorite part of the day. What I think you see there with any console really getting to grab onto some of the meats of the consumer base, that allows them to try more things. Failures are fine. Failures just mean that the floor is more open to more people to try things out.
Once again, it is Robbie Ross along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks again for watching and listening. It is the success of PlayStation 5 games, Astrobot and Black Myth Wukong, plus the failure of Concord. If you have thoughts on any of those games, please let us know, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we head to the break, my friend, a couple more games to touch on, one of which you really are going to resonate with. The first one is Star Wars Outlaws, which came out to okay reviews. It is the first Star Wars open world game. Your thoughts? Ubisoft thinking they could tap into this market. I know we seemingly get a Star Wars game every single year. Star Wars games have seen some revival of consistency as far as ever since the Battlefront scandals and all that, but they did come out with Battlefront 2, which was better, but then Jedi Survivors, that came out. It's really good. EA seemed to be starting to get the Star Wars thing hanging, but Ubisoft came out this year with their own touch on Star Wars. And we'll see how it resonates with audiences. We'll see how it resonates with gamers, but I am not 100% convinced it's going to, because the fact it came out to such mediocre reviews, Rob.
Well, I will say that some of the best content coming out for Star Wars, and there's been so much of it, which I'll touch on in a second, has been the video games. People have, like really gone after Starkiller. People really enjoy that, like the progression of when it comes to a lot of the video games they put out. In fact, I think that you've had better reaction from the fans. The movies have divided, where the video games, I think, have united. It's another place for people that maybe not agree with all the things that are happening wrong in Hollywood. They can at least come together and break bread over some of these amazing things that they have done with the video games specifically. That being said, I think it's bad timing. I think that some of the bad reviews don't have to do with the video game. I think that there's a little bit of bleed over with the Acolyte. I think that didn't sit well with a lot of people, especially gamers, that they just really didn't think. They no longer feel like Star Wars is for them. They no longer feel like this is a media that took them into concern. And I do think that this new video game, this new iteration, despite what is in the video game, I think that the Acolyte softened the numbers for who will buy it, because the last taste in a lot of people's mouth when it comes to Star Wars is the Acolyte, and they go, do I really want to have another course of this? And unlike a movie, which is just, or a show, which is just, an hour and a half to an hour of your week every week, compared to a video game, which is 900, like how many hours? 100 hours, 60 hours. Also, you're not just watching something and having a reaction to it. In a video game, you're in the action. You're not just being bombarded with enjoyment. You are the character following the struggle. I don't like that term Star Wars fatigue, because I don't think it really fits. It's like saying, oh, there's Marvel fatigue, but then look what happens when you make a Deadpool. There's no more fatigue, apparently, right? Now, all of a sudden, there is no Marvel fatigue. Why? Because it's Deadpool? Sorry. All it is a reference to every Marvel character they've ever made. So there's no Marvel fatigue. It's how brilliant that spark can be. Do you think there's going to be Marvel fatigue when you get Robert Downey Jr. come in as Dr. Doom? I think there may be. It's not fatigue. It's just, what have you done for me lately?
It's just about quality.
Yeah. And what they've done for me lately with Star Wars is the Acolyte. And it didn't resonate with people. So if what you've done for me lately wasn't much, why am I going to spend an exorbitant amount of money compared to just watching a show, which costs you $8 a month or $12 a month, whatever they have their set at Disney Plus right now? Why would I pay this much movie than with the last thing that you did? Maybe I didn't just like, maybe it really annoyed what I felt like my Star Wars was. So maybe that's the fatigue. Quality is like what you're saying. Now, if they just done Rogue One and then released the game, the sales may be different. People's ability to grab it and hold it as their own may be more accessible.
Well, we'll find out what's going to happen. We don't know the numbers yet for Star Wars Outlaws, but hopefully we'll be able to translate that here on the show. But the last game I want to cover is something you are very familiar with, being our Warhammer expert that sets everyone else apart, and that is Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, which has come out, a third-person shooter to really, like Astrobot, really strong, like Black Myth Wukong 2, strong reviews, really strong reviews. It is being favored comparably to Gears of War. And so people, if you need your Gears of War itch, go get this game, because from what they're saying and what I'm seeing and this footage I've seen, Rob, it scratches that itch. So tell me,
oh, it does.
As we were talking before we went on the air about this, you've got to relate to everyone out there just how important this game truly is.
Oh, yeah. It being compared to Gears of War is, for me, hysterical, because there's, as far as I know, the chain sword comes from one place and one place only, which is Warhammer. So what I really see is what they did with Gears and War was a huge fan, in my personal opinion, of the franchise to start off with. You're fighting essentially Tyranids in Gears of War. So if anything, I think Gears of War was a bit of a clone of Warhammer to start off with, not the other way around. But what a wonderful thing to look at. You're going to get co-op play. We're all going to be looking at, like, I think it's 4 distinct builds that will have outrageous gameplay differences. Like, you got a heavy, you have a upfront and personal melee group. We have a sniper group, and then we have an all around group. Wonderful. You're just stealing, not even stealing. What you're holding the things that all of us know already work. They've already had some great success earlier in the year with their first person, sorry, OTS third person shooter. With what was that game called? I'm sorry, it's a Necromunda. I can't remember the release name. Anyway, they had great success on that. I think that they're just catapulting straight through. There's so many great stories to tell in Warhammer, especially right now with all the buzz with Henry Cavill and the possible release with Amazon. I think this is a great time to get into Warhammer. I also think that if you look at the predecessor of Space Marines, because this is Space Marine 2, it was a really well handled game with great lore. They've kept that main character, but you don't have to play the first game to enjoy the second game. So, and Warhammer is a big beast. There's a lot of people that is like, you know what? I don't want to get into it because I don't want to read 1,000 books to get it. This would be a really good way to come in, not know anything, and be brought through a story, get the whole atmosphere, and get everything with just the price of admission.
My friend, it's great to see, though, if that's the case, and it brings more people into, as I said before when we talked about this, any kind of success for the Warhammer series, that it brings it more into the mainstream. As I still think that Warhammer, and I think you'll agree with me, it's still in many ways still looking on the outside, looking in, as far as to the crossover mainstream. And I know that the Henry Cavill Amazon series, if anything, will make it crossover to the mainstream, it will be that. But a game like this is definitely, if it becomes a hit, obviously Warhammer 40K games have been just that solid under the radar success time and time, because that's why they keep going back to it. But from what I'm seeing, the animations, the look, the feel, it's very Gears of War, but it really looks good. It's been getting really good reviews, and I'm really happy to see this extension of the Warhammer universe come into play, especially, like you said, as a setup for the Amazon series to come.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just one of those settings that will become iconic. Eventually, you'll be seeing things release, and before the first words are said, you'll be like, once it becomes more and more, it's just an aesthetic. It is famously, much smarter person than I made the comment of Warhammer is not a story, it's not a character, it's not a game. Warhammer is really a setting. And the world building that is already so beautifully ingrained, not just by one author, not just by two authors, but by a huge community over, I think it's 60 years at this point. They've been writing this rich, beautiful world that whatever character you're following just needs to live in. So I think the success and failure of any Warhammer project, whether it be Henry Cavill's move into being a show to bring it to more people, this video game, or even some of the smaller games like Tacticus, which I would consider very niche for a phone player. What really matters is getting the setting right, the world that they all live within. Now, it's also easy because you have 140 odd core books to pour from. So if you want world building, all you have to do is connect the dots and stay in the lines. Other than that, you can almost do whatever you want. So I think as long as they stay there, the reviews look great. I cannot wait to play this game. In fact, as you can tell, it's not our normal setup. We're in the middle of a move. I got a good friend of ours that is part of the Vampires and Vitae cast that's going to be moving in with us for a short amount of time. He has his own PlayStation. I cannot wait to be in the same room with two different TVs, and play essentially a landline game. My nerd cred gets higher and higher by the day. It's going to be so much fun. And he doesn't know Warhammer at all, and I get to experience this with a buddy and show him something new. I mean, if I'm that excited, yes, I am a little bit tilted on this one. This is one of my favorite properties, but I am excited to play for it. Not just the game, the gameplay looks fantastic. It looks like they really cared about making it an epic story. If you look at some of the walking tutorials, as you see the herd or the flock of Tyranid changing in sky, like we look with our crows and geeses, and just the amount of pain and destruction in the backgrounds of these games. I mean, like it's the stuff that it's like we mentioned Elden Ring earlier. Yeah, the fights are great, the mechanics are fantastic, but how many of us have played Elden Rings and just stopped and looked over a bluff to look what was on the horizon? I think you're going to get the same kind of beautiful visuals here, just set in that grimdark setting.
Once again, it is Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. It is coming out to a video game console near you, so please go ahead and get that today. Very strong reviews on that one. Star Wars Outlaws, same thing. That is now available out there for Moviesoft. So please let us know your thoughts on both those games. All the games we talked about, whether it's Star Wars Outlaws, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, Astrobot, Concord even, and of course Black Myth Wukong. Please let us know your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we head on out, my friend, and touch on anything Vampires and Vitae-ish.
Oh, we've been on hold because of the move. Our wonderful friends, instead of playing our game, will be helping us move our table into our new location.
Okay.
So the games are not done. All this has done is given me and Melinda, because we both play two. We both DM two amazing games. Go check her out as well. If you're waiting for where the story continues, those games are not finished. We're just everyone's moved. We all know how difficult that is. So we're going to be setting up another game table, setting up all new things, all new plot lines. So do stick with us. We'll be coming back within probably the next month.
Absolutely. Vampires of Vitae, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, Wizards of Wine, all the great things Robbie and Melinda are doing. But before we end it out, my friend, some good streaming watching while you're doing the move. As Murders in the Building Season 4 has come out to really strong reviews, and a renewal from Hulu for Season 5 was just announced yesterday. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 2, doing the same thing, doing okay. Nothing worth as far as really strong, but not really negative. It's just there. I think the thing though is when you spend so much money as Amazon did on the Lord of the Rings license to do this, you want more than just there. So we'll see what happens with the numbers on that one. But it's the Apple TV Plus shows I want to go ahead and give some love to on the way out, and that is Slow Horses with Gary Oldman coming out as far as a new season. I believe it's this week, and as far as coming out, in fact, I think it might be available now. That deals with as far as the spy world, as far as it's concerned, as an aging spy and how he deals with it. But Gary Oldman been critically lauded for this performance, and in fact, he's catering his movie roles around what he does in Slow Horses because he loves the performance, loves the character so much in Slow Horses, and possible Emmy consideration coming up next time around for him. But it's Pachinko Season 2 I want to touch on. This recently got a 10 on IGN. It's gone under the radar with some of the other higher profile Apple TV Plus releases. But my friend, it concerns quality television. They still cannot seem to get a film or a movie right at Apple TV Plus because they have so many high profile failures that have happened recently. But their TV is pretty darn good, my friend.
Well, I mean, like, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I don't think Gary can do a bad part. I mean, have you ever seen something that he's bad in? I mean, like, he's probably one of the few actors that if he's in the movie and I'm like, maybe I'll miss it. I won't once I see him. I mean, he is just such a treasure. And the fact that he is willing to not take that big paycheck to hit a movie, because again, I don't think I'm alone in that. As soon as Gary's in a movie, people show up. So for it to be that important to him to work on it, I think can show what he's doing. It's also a great format for him, right? He's a character actor. So you love him for the 45 minutes you get him out of the 2-hour movie. Well, our comparison, when you do a TV show, you get to have all that time to develop a character and really sink into what you could fight. I mean, like, it's obviously a great path for him. And if he believes in it that much, you probably should too. When it comes to Apple TV, I think there's a weird kind of paralysis with people with Apple. They're like, I trust them with my phone over maybe even a superior product. I know, hot take, when it comes to other phone, like when it comes to other phone people that you can choose. But when it comes to their media, people almost feel like they're taking the piss. Like they're like, oh, come on, you're not also this. You know what I mean? You're not, and they don't have a lot of success with their shows. So it's like another thing that you're paying towards Apple. You
Ted
know, it's just,
Lasso is the biggest
yeah.
thing that they've
Oh yeah,
had.
I'd
Severance
say
has been a huge critical success.
yep.
Pachinko is now following in their footsteps.
I have not seen Pachinko at all. I have not
Highly
seen.
recommended.
Yeah, 10
Highly
out of 10.
recommended.
10 out of 10 is a high number. They don't pass those out very often.
No.
So I will say that I'm a little bit. I do not have enough information about Pachinko. What have you seen it? Is one of yours that you enjoy?
I'm now currently traveling through season 2 because they're not yet finished to conclude the season, but it does travel back and forth in time to from the World War II area in the closing days of World War II in Japan, then goes back to a more modern era later on, decades later, and it travels back and forth. It kind of does it seamlessly. Once it takes you a little while to get used to the time jumping back and forth, but once you do, tells the stories about families, about how they survived, how they dealt with life. It's just very compelling.
Is it
It is.
the like what is it? Is it the it's the simple story and a grand gesture? Is that what's
Mhm.
grabbing you? Is it
Yes.
the that makes perfect sense. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
it is. It is that there's no big grandiose story
right,
involved, or there's no over the top characters. It's just basically trying to tell you compelling stories about families and how
yep.
they dealt with life in those different time periods. And I hope people get a chance to see it. Slow Horses, again, if you're a Gary Oldman fan, I'd check it out. But don't sleep on also as well Only Murders in the Building if you have Disney Plus or Hulu, because that
Right.
has been a great success for them. It just got renewed for season 5. And
Horrible cast in that show, by the way. They really just scraping the bottom of the barrel
yeah,
to to,
yeah.
to make it.
Well,
I mean,
I just found out Selena Gomez is a billionaire, so congratulations to her on that. I don't know if a whole lot's based off of her work in Only Murders in the Building, but congratulations to her success on that. And then Lord of the Rings, again, if you want to go ahead and deep into the Tolkien lore, by all means, it's touching on that, but be prepared for some heavy conversation because that's what it's doing right now. So we'll leave it at that. But my
sure.
friend, it's been great to have you here. Just fantastic as far as what you've been able to provide today. I know Melinda greatly appreciates you stepping in for her today as we saw her stepping through the side. But,
Oh yeah.
I wish you both success with the move. But any last thoughts, my friend, before we head on out?
Um, you know what? if if you ever hear the two of us like put down something and maybe we're not excited for it, I would still go check it out because this is just our opinions. You know what I mean? Like we get the luxury of really having a lot of really cool friends to get to talk about pop culture cosmos, but that doesn't mean that we have all the answers. So if we don't like something, that doesn't mean that you have to dislike it too. So even if we are not all like for example, I'm not excited for the new Lord of the Rings like show. I'm not. That does not mean that you don't also need to be excited about it. You know, like you pick what you want, stick with it. And the best part about the conversations with you, Gerald, is finding out the ways that both of us feel about it. And we don't always agree. So feel free to have the freedom of that in your own home. Probably my only last words of wisdom.
So for Robbie Ross, it's Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching and listening. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.